We have
Okay.
there's 5 board members, so I think we can start.
Okay, we're good to start. Okay. Ms. Beth Petruno, please.
All right, good evening. It is Monday, May 11th, 2020. This is a curriculum committee meeting of the board. Tonight, if you have public comment, it can be emailed to us at publiccomment@colonialsd.org. And I'm going to call the meeting to order now. And I believe, have we received any public comment on the agenda?
Mr. Sherman, do we have public comments on the agenda? Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I believe Mr. Sherman was just sending out. Mr. Sherman, are you here? Oh, we're having some technical difficulties. I see Mr. Sherman. Do we have public comments sent into colonialsd.org on this evening's agenda? Okay, hearing none at this time, and those of you, if you do have a comment, we will absolutely get to comments after our meeting as well. So hearing none, I'm going to move to just provide you with a summary of what this evening's focus will be. And I think Mrs. Aiken or Mr. Merck, do you have the sheet? This evening, we will be summarizing proposed summer programs. There will be 3 that we will be presenting an overview for this evening. So if Mrs. Aiken, you could just provide that summary doc there under summer programs. If you click on that link, please.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, you could see that you'll be hearing about 3 programs this evening. The first that is being proposed is called Camp Colonial. Camp Colonial is a new summer program, and this program is being offered to students entering grades 1 through 5. We are proposing that this is an extension basically of the school year to begin on June 15th and end on June 26th. You will hear more details about that program a little bit later on this evening. You'll also hear, and we'll begin with the program Extended School Year, ESY. Mrs. Karen Burke and her team is here to provide some highlights of that program. That program is expected to begin on June 29th and end on July 30th. The third program that you will hear about, and we have run this program in the past, we have just made some modifications, is the Summer Literacy Blast, and that will be, again, held this year in August 5th, and we extended a little bit to August 20th. So before we begin our summer program overview and highlights, we thought it'd be a really great idea to begin with a very short video highlighting last Friday's Fun Fit Friday. Very successful. We heard lots of positive highlights from parents and from staff. So I asked Mr. Merck, he is the curriculum supervisor in charge of physical education, if he wouldn't mind giving us a just kind of quick overview of that day and share a video. So Mr. Merck, did you want to begin with the video?
I'll go over the program first. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, great.
So this past Friday was designated as Fit Friday for the students. Building administrators and physical education teachers coordinated and created fun and engaging activities. The day was for the students to focus on physical education and staying active during the closure. The teachers emphasized why movement is important, how movement affects our mindset, and the importance of physical activity. Students who participated in this activity were eligible to win a Colonial Strong t-shirt by submitting a photo of themselves completing the activity. Students in each grade level will be eligible to win a t-shirt in a random drawing, where we'll select the students randomly in a drawing. So what we have here is a video of the K3. Now the K3's complete video, if you had a chance to see that, was over 30 minutes long, but we shortened it up to 5 minutes just to kind of give you a snapshot of the things that the students were engaged in. It highlights what the teachers in each of the K3, the physical education teachers in each of the K3 buildings and the activities they proposed. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. If somebody has trouble hearing it, please let me know.
this is Mrs. Stevens, the phys ed teacher from Conshohocken Elementary School. The purpose of this time is to focus on physical education in reference to why it is important to stay active during the school closure. Some questions to think about. Why is movement important? How does it affect our mindset? What does movement do for people?
Hi, Colonial. My name is Mrs. Castellani, and I'm from Ridge Park Elementary School. Before we do any activities or exercises or sports, it's always a good idea to warm up. So before we get started today, my family and I are going to do some warm-ups with you. At Ridge Park, we typically pick a stick and to vary our warm-ups and to change things up in the gym. So my boys and I will pick 6 today to get us started. First one is ski jumps. Some friends call them line jumps, but you're going to stand still, keep your feet together, and jump back and forth. So can you do that 10 or more times?
Hey Colonial students, I'm Mrs. Rabenda from Plymouth Elementary School, and today I'm going to teach you the game of catch tennis. Catch tennis is a tennis game that you can play without any racket. All you need is a ball and a net.
Hey Colonial students, it's Mr. Yakel from White Marsh Elementary, about to show you a game called What Time Is It, Mr. Fox? For this game, you only need something to designate a boundary for the fox's den and the chicken coop, and that's about it, and up to 3 people, all right, that you need. So grab some family members, brothers, sisters, moms, dads, whoever's in your house that you can play with to make sure we keep social distancing.
Hi everyone, my name is Mrs. Castellani. I am from Ridge Park Elementary School. We're hoping that you are getting outside, moving around, getting some fresh air, and the gym teachers and I would like to give you some activities or exercises to do outside. The one I'm hoping to explain to you today is cornhole or bago, which some of you might have played before. It looks something a little like this. The problem with cornhole or bago is that not everyone has the setup, and we definitely don't have it in our gyms. This year I was hoping to play conehole in the gym instead, which looks a little something like this. But since we're all at home, we don't all have cones and hula hoops to use, so we're going to get creative and make up our own version of backyard conehole.
Hi Colonial, this is Mrs. Stevens, the phys ed teacher at Conshohocken Elementary School. I'm going to share with you today a fun little activity you can do inside or outside depending on what kind of space you have. If it's a nice day and you have the ability to really spread out, you can go outside, but also this works in an indoor setting as well.
Good afternoon, Colonial students. This is Mr. Yakel from White Marsh Elementary, here to show you some cool down activities you can do after you've been using all your body parts and your muscles to bring and cool your body down.
Hi Colonial families, I'm Mrs. Rabenda, the gym teacher at Plymouth Elementary School. I just wanted to take some time here after the cool down to really reflect on our day of activity. Today we started the day thinking about why it's important to be active, especially now when we're not at school and we can't get into the gym for gym class. So let's take a few minutes to think about the time you spent today being active during our warm-up, our activities, and our cool down. Before I go, I'd like to thank all of you Colonial families for joining us today, for being active to keep your body and your mind healthy. Exercise and activity is so important to do, and there are so many ways to do it. Go ahead, find your own, find a fun one that you can enjoy, because that will keep you coming back to exercise and being fit. On behalf of all of the elementary phys ed teachers at Ridge Park, White Marsh, Conshohocken, and Plymouth Elementary School, thanks for spending some time with us today, and we hope you had a great time. Let's stay healthy, be safe, and always be Colonial strong.
Okay.
All right. So It's important to note that all grade levels did similar videos. And obviously, as you got up into the high schools, a little bit more rigorous exercise. So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good feedback, and look forward to seeing photos posted of students completing those on our school district social media and website.
Okay, we can take down that agenda. Fabulous, thank you. We just thought, and thank you, Beth, thought it would be a great idea just to share some of the highlights of Fit Friday, and thanks to Dr. Christian, really making it, focused on, physical, social, emotional activities for that day, as our teachers were engaged in other online activities to really beef up their craft while we're in this current environment. So thank you for that. I'm going to then move over and I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Burke to talk about extended school year, what that entails this year, and how that's going to be crafted given the current environment we're in. Mrs. Burke.
Good evening, everybody. Well, given the current state of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in conjunction with guidance from the county and state officials, we are planning on a remote extended school year this summer for those students with IEPs whose teams have deemed that they are eligible for extended school year services. So this summer, instruction will be delivered Mondays through Thursdays, June 29th through July 30th, with 4 hours of activities planned each day, mostly between the hours of 9 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. So, to the extent possible, under the current circumstances, the eligible students will receive their specially designed instruction and related services, speech and language, occupational therapy, social skills, whatever their IEPs call for. As described in the IEPs, they will have their services delivered through a virtual learning platform. And what does that look like? Well, instruction will be delivered by a certified teacher, and it will include a combination of group direct instruction, individual direct instruction, live skills lessons, recorded skills lessons, goal-directed assignments, and reteaching or reinforcement activities. This summer, approximately 100 students in grades K to 12 were identified as being eligible for extended school year services, and we look forward to working with them this summer. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Were those students identified before we left school in mid-March, or has there been any reevaluation based on the last 8 weeks to see if additional students might fall into that, category?
The students were identified prior. For many of the students who are targeted disabilities, those decisions must be made prior to February 29th. So those were decided then. If there were IEPs that were due during this time, their IEP teams may have determined that they were eligible based on the criteria that's set forth by the state. We will be reconvening IEP teams when we get back to school brick and mortar and take a look at what baseline data is when students return and what the data shows within a 2-month period of time, and determine at that point whether additional services would be needed based on the pandemic school closures. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Burke.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to, again, this is a proposed, we're calling it Proposed Camp Colonial. Again, this program will be for students entering grades 1 through 5. This is new this year, and again, it's proposal based on teacher participation and student participation. That information has yet to go out to parents. We are just getting information in regarding the number of teachers interested in teaching this camp. This camp will begin on June 15th and end on the 26th. I'm going to actually turn it over to my team to talk about the structure and the format of how this will, the instruction for students during this time. So if we could just start, if we could just start with Katie, you could talk about how the ELA component of the program will run. Then I'm going to move to Ed to talk about the math, and Maria, a science component. So I'm
Okay.
looking for you on my screen, Katie. There you are. Thanks.
Sure. No, good evening, everyone. The way we're envisioning Camp Colonial running in a given week, the teacher day would actually be most likely from about 10 o'clock to 2. And within that time period, they would have multiple small groups of students at that time. And within that week, that time frame, they would be running 4 days a week out of 5. So one of those sessions would be literacy that you could opt into. So we were thinking that parents would be able to sign their child up for literacy, math, and science, or a combination thereof. So if a student were to sign up, we would group the students into being either Monday, Wednesday students or Tuesday, Thursday students for literacy. So 2 days in a given week, they would have for first grade to third grade, most likely around a half an hour of straight literacy instruction. If they're fourth and fifth grade, they could probably endure a little bit more direct instruction, closer to 45 minutes to an hour. But within that time frame for literacy, we are looking at a resource that would translate online. And that particular resource that we're looking at right now is Amplify, so that students could have digital copies, teachers would be able to have digital copies, and it would be a combination of word work, of guided reading. So we would group the students accordingly based on readiness and ability. And then also guided writing, which is a response to what they're reading. And some of the themes that we're looking at right now, grade to grade, would be different lands, similar stories, fairy tales, classic tales, contemporary fiction, and even Midsummer Night's Dream. So there's some really nice things that I think that we can do within that time frame. But the teacher would really serve more so as almost an academic coach. So he or she could provide mini lessons, provide feedback, direct feedback in small groups, also praise, and then peer support for these concepts on a 2-day-a-week basis. So that's what we're looking at as far as literacy is concerned.
So Katie, in terms of the group, we're talking one teacher would be working with, say, 4 to 6 students at a time.
Correct.
Really
Correct.
trying to hone in on that child's instructional level to work within that skill level for the students. So you're working through some of that?
Absolutely.
That accurate? Okay.
And we are using data that we have from prior to closure that we would be able to come up with an semblance of groupings that would not just be grade level, but also kind of taking a look at their strengths in reading, strengths and weaknesses in reading to make those groupings tangible.
Okay. And Ed, math similarly run?
Similar format for math. In math, specifically, we would look at focusing on number sense, computation, problem solving, while incorporating the appropriate mathematical practices such as, attention to precision and perseverance. And it's going to be developing the students' skills, bridging, both from the grade level that they're leaving and leading into the grade level that they're going to.
Okay, thank you. And as we said, we're working on an optional science component as well. Mrs. Wilczek, can you talk about that?
Sure. Good evening. So science would be a little bit different than ELA and math. We would be offering science once a week on Fridays, and we would have one teacher available for half-hour Zooms, potentially running 5 Zooms a given day. And that would be broken up based upon the number of students that are enrolled. So we might have one Zoom by grade, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or we might cluster grades together depending on the number of students that we have. But the purpose of the science would be more on developing just skills and inquiry, and not specifically on content, but also so that it's an enjoyable release for the kids, so that they have something that they can look forward to doing. It's a little bit more relaxed, but at the same time, it's educational. And that being said, we also want to make sure that we're delivering opportunities for the kids that are on the same content. So for example, a kindergarten class might still do something on force and motion as well as 5th grade. So if there's siblings within the same household, that might then lead to conversations or opportunities for them to extend their learning beyond just that particular Zoom session. They can collaborate together and work together. So it's really part of it's for a social aspect and well-being, but also to be delivering some just fun inquiry opportunities for the kids and expose them for the course of the summer.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions regarding the proposed Camp Colonial?
I have a couple of questions. First, who is the intended audience, and can any family in the district participate? And second is, are we prepared to, to be able to scale up in the event that we get more participants than we typically would have in a summer program, given that there's just not a lot of other things happening this summer with camps being canceled, et cetera?
Okay, we currently will put a survey out to teachers. We currently have 10 teachers interested in taking an online course this summer. And as we said, the potential for each teacher probably working morning to early afternoon.
Hey, Liz, you're muffled.
You're not muted. You just you're a little distorted there. It sounded a little bit like
I'm having some internet connection. Sorry about that.
now you're clear. We had Charlie Brown's teacher going for a little while there.
Sorry about that. Right now, we currently have 10 teachers that are interested. We're looking at teachers working with, as we said, 4 to 6 students across the day each. In terms of scaling up, Adam, I'm not sure. We have to kind of work out the logistics of that. I don't know if we get the number of students beyond that capacity. We're thinking probably we are offering it to all students entering 1st through 5th. We may have to, as we have in the past with summer programs, kind of a first come, first served basis in terms of signups. That has not gone up to the public yet. We wanted to absolutely make sure that we had some logistical aspects of the program figured out. And we wanted to make sure, obviously, that we have some teacher level interest. We currently have 10 teachers interested. That survey just went out last week. So more to come on that, but we are offering it, and Dr. Christian wanted to make sure that we're offering it, as a free service to parents. So Dr. Christian, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, that was well said, Dr. McKinney. We're getting a variety of requests either to end school early or extend it to beyond June 12th. We really thought, considering, while certainly nothing against ELA, math, and science, we know it is not the same as going to your camp that you might you may attend. We thought it would be good to offer some extensions to the school year. And I'm working with Mr. Soblaski to make sure that we can cover it with our current budget. And if we have a groundswell of applicants, then that to me is a good problem to have, and we'll do the best we can to accommodate as many people as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So by the end of this week, we definitely should have more information to you. We have a K-5 building principal meeting tomorrow. We'll be talking about more of the logistics and then communicating that information out to families. So you should hear something that's Tuesday by Wednesday, no later than Wednesday. Okay. Thank you. We have one more, and you're familiar with this particular summer program, although not online. So we had to kind of go back with our teachers for the Summer Literacy Blast program. And I'm going to ask Katie to talk about currently how that program is going to look. And that will be running August 5th through August 20th. So I'm going to kind of circle back to Katie to talk about some of the changes and updates to that program.
Thank you, Liz. So just as Liz had mentioned, I'm very grateful that we are able to run this camp again. It is a well-received camp. Initially, this is a camp that we would run in June, sort of as an extension, but we got feedback from parents that as a kickstart to the school year, we did move that time to an August camp, and we're going to maintain that for this upcoming year, but it will be an online opportunity. Being that it's online, we are extending the time frame a bit. It used to run a little bit less in terms of actual days and FaceTime, but we are going to be running Summer Literacy Blast online from August 5th to August 20th. Now, no Fridays. And very similarly to the way we described Camp Colonial, the teacher day will be from 9 to 3. However, they will work with small groups of students. Again, that small ratio will really allow us to focus in on students, group them accordingly, and make sure that we're meeting their needs in a live fashion. With that said, the students would also be grouped in that Monday, Wednesday, and or Tuesday, Thursday feel to it. As far as the student criteria, we're maintaining our student criteria when we go to group students. It is an invitation by invitation only type of camp because we do try to make sure that we're targeting students that don't exceed a grade level below in reading. So really making sure that we're maintaining proficiency or getting them towards proficiency based on the measures that we have prior to closure. We also like to invite students who may not have had preschool. So incoming kindergarten students who may not have had exposure to preschool but are registered. We like to include those students as well as students who might be new to Colonial School District who would want to get acclimated and meet some peers. So we are going to maintain that criteria, but we are expanding that time, and by doing it online, we are going to be doing that by Zooming. We do have a number of instructors that we have secured. At this point, we have 6 people willing to instruct via Zoom in August, so that's very encouraging. And again, really the basis of what we do during Summer Literacy Blast is a blend of small group reading, writing in response to that reading, and then we always like to bring in the summer reading and also guest speakers. And I do believe we'll be able to continue that as well. So we have had SPCA, we've had Whole Foods, we've had all different community vendors, our local libraries to come. And with that, they usually speak to our students to get them excited about literacy in the community, how that's utilized, making that homeschool connection. And then what students would do in response is write to those folks in our community and really validate their efforts. And whether that's a thank you note or creating a recipe or even a little narrative, or we've had the fire department come in and they'll write little how-tos. It's very practical kind of writing that we've incorporated. So I do believe we'll be able to continue that. And on the flip side of their small group reading, offer some of those, as I said, community visits and writing experiences that we've been able to do in the past. So again, we are really looking forward and grateful that we have the opportunity to run that again. And we are going to be collecting those names from our buildings. And what we are looking for here, though, as far as students who participate, would be K through 6. So it's pretty extensive as far as how we can expand. And again, we're looking forward to sending that information out to parents very soon.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Any questions for Katie regarding Summer Literacy Blast? Chris?
Yeah, so looking forward to potentially opening the schools in the fall, if there are restrictions that are lifted somewhat over like by August, would it be possible to have not do that particular program online, but actually in a building, so that we, if allowed by the state and the county, to kind of get our feet wet, so to speak, with how to handle modifications we might need to do in our distribution of learning with a smaller group of students, sort of a test run, so to speak, with figuring out how to maintain whatever protocols we're going to have at that point. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It definitely makes sense. I would say we have more experience running it that way in a face-to-face manner than we do in the way that's proposed.
Right.
But obviously I would follow the lead of Dr. Christian, Dr. McKinney with regard to those steps. But I do feel as though we have the resources, and we did have an initial plan in terms of location, but I think that we are prepared to do that in either fashion, as far as adhering to the regulations, of course.
Right. And the other question I have is, I know over the summers, we've always had resources for families to utilize to maintain their students, levels of reading and math and whatnot. Do the software programs that the kids are using from September until June, are they also eligible to use those over the summer? Like, are our licenses allowing them to utilize it over the summer, so that in the case of where we might have so many people that sign up for the Camp Colonial, that we wouldn't be able to handle all of that? Maybe there's another way, an alternative for them, like here are kind of different resources that would enhance their experience over the summer.
Absolutely. The resources are, as far as my knowledge, we paid through the summer, so students absolutely have access to, and we encourage students to use those resources over the summer. Absolutely. And obviously our preference, if they lighten the restrictions and our buildings are ready, and, you know, if that is a potential, face-to-face is always, you know, what we've, you know, the direction we'd rather go. So hopefully they will be. I don't know how optimistic we are, but obviously if that's the case, in terms of keeping summer readings up with students, I know that Katie, you could talk about, we had some questions about the summer readings as well, getting some information out to students in terms of those books and the list. So Katie, do you want to just, I know that was,
Sure. We haven't made major adjustments to those lists just relative to our circumstances at this point. When we typically make adjustments or changes to our summer reading, it is usually a committee, a number of teachers that contribute to that. And we would make those updates in the spring and put it out in the summer. Also, some of those changes are a response to curricular adjustments. And I think both of those cases, we've been really concentrating on our delivery of the current curriculum. So you're not going to see major changes in book titles, but what you will see this year is just maintaining that balance of fiction and nonfiction for each grade. Each grade has various levels from which students can select. There are recommended selections for every grade, and then there are other grades that do have required selections, and they're required if there is some sort of an assignment attached. At the 4th and 5th grade, it's very light. It's just a postcard. Whereas when you get into 6th through 8th grade, they do look for more notes and quotations. And then by the time you get to high school with the honors course required readings, you are going to see things that are a little bit more extensive with comprehension and graphic organizers. So you will see that all of that has been maintained. The other thing that we are trying to do is virtual book talks right now. So we are getting support from our wonderful library media specialist team across the district, and they are putting together book talks that teachers would be able to post on their Google Classroom pages to advertise the title, have some trailers involved, and then get kids excited. The nice thing about that is teachers usually did that during the school year, but this is something that parents and students would also be able to access. The other thing that we are doing is for our families that are free and reduced lunch, we are, courtesy of Colonial, going to make it possible to order their summer reading books via an actual order form and send that in. So we'll make sure that all students do have access to a summer reading selection.
I have a question.
Hi, Beth.
Yes. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late. So my guess is that there are more kids probably heading towards free and reduced lunch than there were in March, that we probably have more families. Or how are we handling that as far as, you know, giving materials that they might be in a position now that they can't afford that they might have been able to do several months ago?
We've opened it up to, if people need a device, we set up a time for them to come in. We've had about 7 or 8 device pickups. We first prioritized families in need, but then opened it wide open. There were some families that actually asked for a second device so that students wouldn't have to share.
Yeah, but like the books and everything that we're going to be giving. So I assume we'll advertise the same way if you are in need or somehow, because the mailing list has changed, right, for those families that might need this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the book list in particular, I would defer to what we have on record. And then beyond that, I would work through the building principals to see if there are other circumstances that have emerged. So we did talk about that at the administrative level last week. So I am going to be very cognizant of circumstances.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I guess, Beth, do we have some public, or Dave, do we have some questions from the public?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
For the record, there was one comment on the agenda that was answered. Jason Mayer from White Marsh Township asked about ESY for the summer and whether or not it would be virtual. I believe Mrs. Burke answered that.
Okay, yep.
Dr. Christian, you have the list. Would you like to ask the question?
No problem. Public comment on the agenda. Mr. Mayor, Jason Mayer from White Marsh, in addition to asking about ESY, he wrote, "Thank you to all the staff for their hard work. Will the middle school students be taking finals? Any plans for 8th grade graduation? And will ESY be virtual this summer?" So the answer to the last one is yes, as Mrs. Burke mentioned. As far as finals are concerned at the middle school and high school, we will not be giving finals. We've asked our teachers to use other assessments and be flexible in their grading during this unprecedented time. And so similar to the PSSAs, there'll be no finals. Mr. Failer will be communicating that. Plans for 8th grade graduation. For the past 3 weeks, we've been focusing on our obviously our seniors graduating, which Dr. McConney shared that plan with seniors last Friday. And but the K-8 principals have been working on different graduation plans and promotion ceremonies because the governor has extended the stay-at-home order for until June 4th presently. We anticipate that they will most likely be recorded or virtual rather than in person. But they do have plans, and the teachers have been contributing many creative ideas to recognize our students as they're promoted from one grade to another. We have several additional comments for the end of the meeting. This is from Aaron Salino, Plymouth Township. Other districts, including Wissahickon, are having teachers at the K-3 level meet with students at a 1-to-3 ratio via video conference. They use Seesaw. Why hasn't Colonial moved towards doing more small group, face-to-face interactive teaching times via video conference, of course? There's another comment that I'll read, and it's a similar comment, and then we'll go back and can have a discussion. This is from Antonella Cianferoni. In the last curriculum meeting, there was a lot of talk about the importance of direct teaching to children, especially through small group, both from the academic and social perspective. Could we have an explanation why such invaluable teaching tool in a setting of total physical social isolation for kids has not been offered to all students in K-3 and middle school? Also, can you comment if such tools will be available in the future? Yeah, I met with all the principals when we meet weekly, but we talked about this recently. And additionally, when we first started our remote learning, we do have targeted small groups taking place within our schools, but we certainly can do more to make it more consistent. And that was our follow-up conversation with the principals, and they're taking care of having follow-up conversations with their faculties. I do know many of our reading specialists and special education teachers are definitely having the small group instruction, but we will look to expand. Additionally, in the middle school, I know we have office hours and core meetings and follow-up Zooms. And I do know that our faculty also spends a tremendous amount of time helping kids and families navigate remote learning on an individual basis. And sometimes it's just having difficulty logging in. Other times it could be sound issues, video issues, things like that, which is, I think, improved, but it doesn't change the fact that there could be some connectivity challenges out there for families. Certainly not perfect, but I think our faculty is doing a very good job. Another comment, different subject. As a single parent with 2 children home, I would like to ask when the last day of education will be for the school year. I appreciate and thank the teachers, administration, and district for everything they have done during this crazy time. I think that it's time to close for the year. I'm not capable of teaching my children in the same manner as the teachers are. I do not have their expertise or patience. Homeschooling is stressful, full of tears, and is not teaching my children anything new. Please consider wrapping the year up early. That's from Maya Jensen in White Marsh Township. Certainly appreciate Mrs. Jensen's comments. I talked with my colleagues in the county, and it's been an interesting topic. One district, a neighboring district over in the Willow Grove area, is closing May 29th. Our last day is still June 12th. I also have comments that say we should continue till June 30th and then start school in August. So it really runs the gamut. And I think I've said in many of my communications to families, remote learning and what we're doing right now, repackaging how we've delivered education, is being done in a very finite amount of time. I know the days may seem long, but it's really been a small amount of time to do this. And it is not a replacement for face-to-face brick and mortar schools. You know, I've participated in Zoom meetings with our teachers, and I do see I do see some examples of great things going on. But presently, we'll finish June 12th. I do anticipate, however, as we get into June, and particularly in that June 5th to 8th timeframe, that new assignments will probably cease because the last 3 or 4 days, we'll be looking at promotion ceremonies. We're going to be announcing a plan for families once it's safe to come pick up materials. Mr. Shupak asked that at our last meeting. And when the stay-at-home order was extended till the 4th, we've put together plans to do that June 5th through the 12th for each of our schools. We have kids that, I mean, back on March 12th, March 13th, they left, they just got up, they took some of their things home, but we need to pack up all their belongings. So that last week will really be the focus. And those have traditionally been shortened days as well. So while one school announced May 29th, I really think we're in that, for formal assignments, we're in that June 5th to June 8th timeline, which is really only a week after that. Next question is from Robin Eccleston. If schools should go to an alternate scheduling in the fall in order to allow for proper social distancing, will any consideration be given to allow smaller special needs classrooms to return as normal, since they already have the capacity to social distance within themselves? And these are children that are hurting the most without personal instruction. I'm speaking specifically about our life skills classes and one at White Marsh Elementary. And that's from Robin Eccleston, White Marsh Township. So I'll be talking about this more at the board meeting, but we're going to be launching a back to school transition team. And that's going to include teachers, administrators, board members, community members, parents specifically. We're going to have probably 8 or 9 subcommittees. And to respond to Ms. Eccleston's comment, one of them most certainly will be special education. We need to talk about that. We'll have a committee on facilities, transportation, curriculum and instruction, special ed, health and wellness, communication, extracurricular activities, community outreach, and technology. It sounds rather daunting and quite overwhelming at this point. And so we'll have and we'll be soliciting volunteers from our parents through a survey that we'll put out. But we need to prepare for a multitude of scenarios. And to try to go through those right now would not be, not very efficient. But there's discussions. I've read plenty of articles, discussions about perhaps being in school for 2 weeks and then having a week off, or split schedules, AM and PM. I've had, maybe we'd be in Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and off Tuesdays and Thursdays for building cleaning to take place. So there's a variety of things that can happen. Maybe we'll be in full time. So we need to, whatever we need to do, we need to have multiple contingencies, and they have to be focused on safety and supporting our students. And we must follow the governor's orders and CDC guidelines. So more information to come on that, but we certainly, I thought that was a very good comment that we received, and it's something that we're working on. The county has put together a group of superintendents to have similar conversations about countywide services, and I'll be serving on that committee as well. Last comment, we understand there are many unknowns currently, but can you share as of now what the contingency plans are for the district moving forward if in the fall, A, school opens with social distance guidelines continuing, or B, schools remain closed and distance education continues? And that's from Vicki Lung Lee in Lafayette Hill. And I would just reference back to the response I just gave. And that concludes our comments this evening, unless more came in, Dave, while I was rambling.
No, that's it. We did not receive any questions or comments during the meeting.
Are
And if
there,
I was too loud, I apologize. I've been having some mic issues, and I know I have a very booming voice.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Sure.
I apologize. Did anyone talk about the AP exam starting today? I can give a personal update if we didn't.
We have not talked about that. So.
Okay. All right. I just want to let everybody know, anybody who's watching or people that have kids starting these AP exams that are being done remotely and very differently. My daughter started hers today, took one today, and it went off without a hitch. There were no login problems, no issues that way at all. And all of her friends, nobody had an issue that I'm aware of. Not saying there wasn't, but it seemed to run pretty smoothly, just as an FYI.
That's great.
And I have one more question too. I know that we talked about resources. With the high school summer reading that's required for students entering the different grades, those books are a much more streamlined list for each grade. Is there going to be a way for maybe when the students do come to pick up their whatever they left behind or come to pick up their yearbooks, can they pick up a copy of the summer reading book at the high school level at that point also, since there's only like 3 or 4 titles per grade?
I'll follow up with our team on that one, Mrs. Epstein. Let me talk with Jason about that.
Okay, because those titles, they typically, some classrooms have a whole classroom, like 30 copies of a book per each grade, so.
Whatever we do, we're trying to we're trying to limit the number of trips people have to make. So we're going to try to do as much all in one as we can. And we have decided it's the administrative recommendation for families who have borrowed a device to keep that device through the summer. So we have, obviously, if somebody's graduating, we'll collect it if they borrowed one. But other than that, it's our intent for them to hold on to it into the summer, should the need arise for some sort of remote or online learning be needed in the fall, or they want to participate in one of the camps that we'll be offering.
I have a question. I'm just curious in terms of our teachers. Are we hearing any common themes about from our teachers about what works, what's working, what's been more challenging, any issues with resources that they have or use of the technology, just any frustrations. I'm just curious sort of what they're what they're saying.
We are actually, as part of Friday's professional development, we actually collected just that information from teachers. What's working well? Where do you feel you are in the curriculum? What challenges are you having? We have about, I think, over 315 responses right now. We're expecting the rest of those to come in. That was part of the professional development, the exit slip. So we will be compiling that information and really working through, obviously, the greatest challenges and really starting next year, making plans for what will it look like if we have an online environment, a hybrid environment, where will the starting points be? So we're collecting all that data and information from teachers, as well as kind of where we are looking at curriculum pacing. So we'll be bringing a team back to work throughout the summer to address some of those issues. So yes, we are collecting that information, and obviously as needed, if teachers really feel that they're being challenged or struggling, working with our master teachers, guidance counselors, curriculum supervisors, Karen's team, whoever's available, really spot on to work with teachers directly. So I don't know if any building principals have heard challenges or issues from their teachers that they wanted to share at this time,
or anything positive.
Positive, great.
Yeah, this is Rose Rock. Hi, how are you? So yeah, Friday, I think that a lot of the teachers expressed a lot of positive things. The first couple of weeks, there may have been some hiccups, but I think most people have settled into a rhythm, and the kids have really acclimated. They're getting a lot of work from their families, and communication is great. So I think it was a lot of really positive things that came out on Friday. So thank you for that, Dr. Christian.
We did just receive another public comment. Dr. Christian, are you seeing that?
Give me a second, please.
It's probably because I spoke. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Was trying to get a split screen going here. Public comment. Words cannot express how truly grateful our family is to all of you in the district for your time, hard work, and patience during this unprecedented time. When I watch the district meetings online, it just shows how much everyone involved in the planning process cares and wants the best for everyone in the Colonial School District. It's clearly evident that this group has our district children and families' best interest in mind when dealing with and planning during the pandemic. You're all appreciated beyond words. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep being awesome. Leah Gianmarco, Plymouth Township, parent of a second grader at PE and an eighth grader at CMS. Special thank you to our teaching teams also, who have been doing an amazing job with online instruction. Thank you. That was very nice of you to email. I would also echo this past week was Teacher Appreciation Week. And traditionally we have had a small gift for our teachers when they come to school in their mailboxes, and our PTOs always plan great events for our teachers. And obviously that couldn't take place. So I talked with Bob Slagle and the CEA leadership when it is safe. And I sent a note to all of our staff on behalf of the board, thanking them for their efforts. But when it is safe, I think the best gift we can give as an administrative team is the gift of time and the ability to gather and chat with one another. So we are going to, when it's safe, have one big barbecue, that's for sure. And I'll be behind the grill, and Lori McCoy will keep a close eye on me to make sure everything is fully cooked. And Bob Slagle has offered to help, and our administrative team will be the servers as well. So, we all look forward to that day. But thank you to our teachers for their efforts.
All right, is there any other public comment or board comment? All right, I just wanted to say thank you as well to all of our teachers. I know you really are appreciated. And last week, I know I heard some feedback that you were getting emails and homemade videos. So Ridge Park did a school-wide video, which if you didn't get a chance to see it, maybe Ms. Carr can share it, but it was really meaningful. Lots of kids talking. I think it went on for 20 or 25 minutes, just little clips that were made, in backyards, in bedrooms, outside. And it really showed that the kids are missing, missing school, missing being with their teachers. So thank you guys for all you're doing, for all the principals and everyone being on this call tonight. And if nobody else has anything, we can adjourn our meeting.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Thank you so much.
We'll see the board at 8 p.m. for our special board meeting.